another episode. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about it. In order to talk about it, you guys know how this thing goes. Let the room fill up, and we're gonna get things going in the right direction. Let's go, Cowboys. Yes. There we go. We got some people in the house. All right, tell them who you are.
What up? This is DDP from the Dallas Prospect, ready to preview the Cowboys at New Orleans and talk about the next Cowboys win.
Yes. Oh, man, you speaking it into existence right there. I love it.
Laying the cards down early.
Laying them down. We might want to go ahead and give me your bold prediction.
Hey, man, I don't want to get into the bold prediction just yet, but I will say this. When you know you got a royal flush, you're not so hesitant to put those cards down.
Man, oh, man. For everybody that's out there, go visit DallasProspect.com. And I'm telling you, this guy got a lot of information and articles out there for you all, especially if you are a quick readers and stuff like that. He got great 5-minute read pieces out there that goes into details from left to right about this team. And also, I have to say this. Cowboys Experience, where you can get ticket pricings and also tickets for your family and friends and even your enemies that you don't even like, that you can give them tickets to the game so they can witness the Cowboys whoop up on their teams, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's CowboysExperience.com, and you can go there and check out all of the wonderful things there. Heading into week 4. So you're saying that we're going to be 4-0 by Monday, right?
I got a feeling, yeah. I mean, some people think that because I've been cautious about the defense and feeling like they've come on a little slow to start the year, that I automatically assume that we're not a good team. I don't think that at all. In fact, that's why I've kind of held us to a higher standard, because I do know how good this defense can be. And so I want to see them play up to that standard. And if you look through the first 2 weeks, 14.7 points per game allowed, 336 yards of offense per game. Yeah, those are phenomenal numbers, but you also had probably the 3 best matchups you could have in terms of a weaker opponent in the first 3 weeks of the season. So this is the first real test, and I want to see us put together something. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, right? I'm not asking for a carbon copy, but give me something that kind of resembles that 13-9 win over New Orleans last year. Just something where your defense just knocks them out, and you can hold Alvin Kamara, who is really their most dangerous weapon, even over Michael Thomas. Hold him in check, hold the Saints in check, and I will become an instant believer that, okay, the defense really can hold teams to something like less than 450 yards of offense week in and week out and less than 20 points. If you do that, I'm all in on this thing right now.
Yes, indeed. I always say tread lightly on the New Orleans Saints, because you just never know. They're in the Superdome or Mercedes-Benz Dome, whatever the name of their stadium. Somebody can correct me on what's the proper name of their stadium if possible.
Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Oh, okay. It's all of it all in one, right?
Yep.
They got some crazy stuff that happens down there, whether it be a ball that so happened to bounce off a player's back and hit the foot and then all of a sudden it's picked off, or whether it be like the crowd noise that's there. But
or a ref not throwing a flag for a clear pass interference that then cost them of all teams.
Right. Or remember last year the Randy Gregory situation where they said he was across the line of scrimmage or something like that.
Yeah.
Stuff,
in that 13-9 game, yes.
Yeah. So
he had a couple penalties that actually could have hurt us in that game. He had I think he bumped the kicker at some point.
Right. So it's crazy when you watch a game down there, and it's loud. The fans are loud. And what I want to tell a lot of people is, don't sleep on this. Cowboy Nation, we're big, and it may be a lot of silver and blue out there in the fans and in the stands and stuff like that.
For sure.
Especially when we're going into it and we're 3-0, opposed to us being like 1-3 or 1-15 or something, whatever. It's just different when we are winning heading into New Orleans. We always have a fan base that travel when we're winning.
Oh, for sure. 1-15 might be hard to fill the stands.
Right.
New Orleans, but I got a feeling that we're going to have a pretty good representation.
Yeah. I meant to say 1-5, but yeah. Everybody said Mercedes-Benz, so we want to come out there with a couple of those. I know some of the players, they drive that Mercedes-Benz, so that's what we want to see. We want to be able to make the New Orleans Saints one-dimensional. I'm thinking that if you can shut down the run and if you can slow down Kamara and forces Teddy Bridgewater to throw the ball, then the game is favorable in your hands, because I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater, he's a precise passer, right? He throws check down balls like no other. If everybody thought that Dak Prescott checks the ball down, that Teddy Bridgewater, boy, he would check a ball down in a heartbeat.
Oh, for sure. And, they did just go, like, they're still a good team, even with Bridgewater at the helm. Like, they did just go into Seattle and beat them. But as we talked about before we jumped on air here, that was with a special teams touchdown. I think it was a punt return and a defensive touchdown as well. So that's 14 free points that you got. And, yeah, they won 33-27. Really, it was 33-20 because Seattle got their touchdown pretty much at the very end in garbage time when it meant nothing at that point. But it is something to say. Like, they are a complete team. I do think in some regard they have more weapons than they had last year. But Bridgewater, even though he is probably one of the best backups you could possibly have right now in the league, he's not Drew Brees. And for that reason alone, it's a little bit of a step back for them, I think. And that makes it, even though, like, if you had Drew Brees in this game, I'll admit I would be hard pressed to favor Dallas in this game, because New Orleans knows exactly how confident we were, how braggadocious we were after we shut them down last year. And this is a game they've had circled all off season. Once the schedules came out, they circled this game. Like, oh, we got Dallas in our house this time? Yeah, circle that. And so that could still be a problem even with Bridgewater, because even though Bridgewater, like you said, it's not a guy who throws deep a whole lot. A lot of checkdowns. I think he had like 4.3 yards through the air against Seattle. They're still a team that can do something. Alvin Kamara, for instance, he's a hybrid running back receiver combo really for them. And in games where he has 150 yards of offense, like combined, and 2 touchdowns, they're 3-1. Like, he is the spark plug of that offense. Now, the difference last year is that we were able to hold him to like 36 rushing yards and like 36 receiving, I think. I mean, we basically shut him down and then just said, Byron Jones, hey, go out there and just shut down Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas is a great receiver, but he moves around a lot. He can move around a lot to different stations, as John Jacques Taylor would say, but he's not a guy that has a whole lot of wow plays. He's just a very good at a lot of different things receiver. And so if you got a guy like Byron who can be fundamental and who can stay locked in, you can definitely slow him down. And that's why Kamara is the real key to that offense.
Yes, indeed. So Michael Thomas is a baby Dez Bryant, for those when Dez was younger in his youth, that's who you see out there, a guy that can pretty much now with Thomas's skill set, you can line him everywhere on the field, you see. And I think that they got a better, during that time frame, they have a better offensive coordinator. Sean Payton is just, he's a wild card too. Sean Payton is going to probably start the game off with an onside kick. Be mindful of that, especially because he knows for sure that this is going to be a high volume type of game, meaning that we can pass and run, you see.
Yeah.
And he's going to look at everything and say, hey, I need the momentum. And they got a guy that wears number 7. I don't know where he came from, but the guy can catch out of the backfield. He can line him up as slot receiver. He can run. He can throw. He can do just about everything. Kickoff return, punt returns. I said, who is number 7? I had to look him up. Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, yeah.
It's Taysom, huh? Like, or like, okay, he's just phenomenal. And if you add in the fact that they got another guy that wears number 11, who you bet not try to punt it off to him. He will embarrass you. He's 5'6", 170 pounds on a good day, and he's just so quick, slippery.
Yeah. The thing with Taysom, he's a versatile weapon for them for sure, and he is a guy that you look at and you're like, oh man, he can do some real damage. But if you look at what he's done to date in the season, it's really not much damage at all. It's just another threat that they have to try and keep you honest as a defense. So Dallas will have to look at it. You don't want to be the one game that he breaks out and suddenly affirms everything that people have thought about what he can bring to their offense. But in terms of his actual production to date, it's really not that staggering in terms of the offense. Now, special teams and all that you were talking about, absolutely. But that is something as well to consider. It's not, it's a little different. They had Mark Ingram last year. He's now in Baltimore.
I think so.
I think Baltimore. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting game. I mean, Dallas is favored by 2.5. The over under is at 47. So this is going to be a pretty tight matchup here. 47, that feels high considering what last year was, but Dallas's offense wasn't then what it is now. With what we have with Kellen Moore and what we have with Dak kind of unlocked finally after all this time. 47 might be a strong number. Like I said, Seattle was able to go in and drop 33, even if it was special teams and defense that helped them get to it.
Right.
33 points in Seattle against a good Seattle team. And Dallas has had 30 points, 35, 31, 31 through the first 3 weeks as well. So that might be an appropriate number after all, the more I think about it, despite last season's late November showdown.
Right. If you look at everything from A to Z, yeah, I can say that. Let's see a lot of people. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat box, and thank those that's on the Facebook panel. I really appreciate you all that's there. Here's the thing: a lot of people saying talk about the defensive lineup, the defensive matchup, and we're I guess you can say that our number 70 Martin, he's not all the way healed. He's not all the way healthy.
Yeah, he missed a practice with a back ailment, and that's I think going to be a consistent concern throughout this year. Backs can be very troublesome, and he's been dealing with it. He started even in training camp having some issues with it. So I think this is going to be kind of a week-to-week thing. I think you're going to have to keep him on a light practice schedule, but in a different way. We did that with him last year because of the sprained MCL, and he was able to not only keep playing through it, but still playing at a level higher than probably 90% of guys at his position could play.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those brutal battles that's in the inside. They reassured their interior. Sheldon Rankins, he's nobody to sneeze at. I think that he might be playing this weekend. You got the other guy, Cam Jordan, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Wears number 94, who can play inside and out. He's a great physical guy, got great bursts off the line. And then if you add in the fact that they got this other guy that they gave up some first-round picks for, Davenport. He's raw in a sense, but he's physically talented. He's a big guy. He don't have a lot of pass rush move, but he's so raw with it. You see, he got that physical strength that he can give us some threats out there as it relates to their defensive front versus our offensive line.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's something that Dallas is going to have to. I mean, we talk about the battle of defensive lines. To me, it's almost more a battle of offensive lines because, I mean, I literally know that's the opposite side of
but I know
what
what
we're talking about. It's just literally flipping the angle of each viewpoint. But, I mean, these are two very good offensive lines. I mean, Dallas has been strong this year. I think they're averaging like 5.5 yards a carry this year.
Right.
And Dallas is off to a great start, but they've been one of the dominant offensive lines in the past few years. New Orleans is very strong as well, though. I mean, they were good last year. They're very good again this year. That's going to be a real challenge, and that's one of those things that helps your guys be really, really versatile in that regard. When you can actually run block, it opens up the pass game. They feed into each other, and that's why if you're a one-dimensional team, a good defense can expose you in a big way. I don't think that's going to be the case this week, depending on what we can see out of Teddy Bridgewater, because I don't think we're going to let him get away with checkdowns, right? We saw how Jordan Lewis was able to, even in his like 12 plays he played last year, how he basically just became a ghost following around Alvin Kamara and pretty much take him out of the game, and he had the game sealing interception. So Dallas isn't going to let the underneath stuff beat them, I don't think. I think Bridgewater is going to have to make some plays downfield to get this defense, because we've seen that is a place where maybe the Dallas defense can be had, is on some explosive plays, whether it be on Cheeto. And I saw your recent film study on him. That was a great watch, by the way.
Oh, thank you. The
that's
critical analysis of Cheeto Awuzie.
Yes.
And a lot of people are looking at it from me putting that video out there is that I'm hating on Cheeto. But no, I'm just pointing out the fact that he's not an aggressive cornerback that's going to just man press or press man the opposition all day. Now, he does give up. He gives up the big plays, and we see that's from redirecting and not playing physical enough at the point of contact and losing the ball out in space. Now, here's the thing. Now, if the Saints are knowledgeable of this, then they would say, okay, we're not going to just keep ramming our head at the wall and challenging Byron Jones. What we're going to do is motion number 13 over to Cheeto's side.
Yes.
And that way, we know for sure that we can get some 50-50 balls or some deep posts and some comeback routes on Cheeto, opposed to just trying to attack Byron Jones. And here's another thing. Last game, everybody look back at last game, you'll see that Jalen Smith, he actually set the tone because he laid the big hit on Alvin Kamara, and he wasn't himself throughout the entire game.
Yep.
What are your thoughts and what are your feelings of Jalen Smith play so far?
Honestly, I'm kind of mixed on his start early on. I know he had a couple games to start off the year with like 10 tackles, but it didn't feel like seek and destroy Jalen to me. It felt like a lot of just stuff getting to the second level and him just kind of snuffing it out there, which is good. You need that. But I think last year you could make an argument of him being our best defensive player, and I just don't know that we really have seen that thus far this year. I have some questions. I don't know if he's playing a little banged up. I didn't see if he appeared on like the injury report.
Right.
But the second Washington touchdown comes to mind, where it was a check down to the running back in front of him. The back cut left, so Jalen's right. And Jalen looked like he just didn't move right well at all. And the guy just pretty much trotted right around him and into the end zone. It's a one play. It's an isolation thing. I get it. Right. I'm not trying to like sound any alarms in that regard, but it is something that I kind of saw and was like, okay. I hope he's all right mobility wise and all that. Now they are blitzing him more this year. So I do think that there is a concerted effort to, like last game, people were asking against the Dolphins why he played fewer snaps. I think he played something like 65% of the snaps. And Joe Thomas played the rest of those snaps for him because Joe Thomas can fill in any of the three linebacker positions. I think they're trying to preserve Jalen a little bit for getting after the passer, which he hasn't done a whole lot in terms of college and pro. We saw him do it a little bit last year, but I think they're going to ask more of him to do that. But I don't think it's necessarily an indictment on Jalen. I think it's them trying to basically say, hey, we really like what we see in Joe Thomas too. He's been a great find for us, and not getting him on the field more than a handful of plays a game feels like a waste. So now they're finding a way that they can say, hey, is it better to get him on there 20 snaps, he being Joe Thomas? Is it better to get him on there 20 snaps a game and Jalen the rest of those snaps rushing the passer at more rested in that regard? Is that better than having Jalen out there every snap, 100% of the snaps, whether that be 65 like it was like week 1 or 72 like it was week 2? Right. And I think that's the answer is the blending it, health permitting. Blending it gives you a fresher approach, having a rotation that way, and it allows you to maximize both guys' talents.
Yes, indeed. It's like a ripple down effect or a conundrum, or maybe you can say it's just one of those things where you look at it as a total defensive issue of not creating pressure, you see.
Yeah.
And that's why coaches say, well, we'll blitz them. Hopefully our guys can get home and we can create some sacks and turnovers in those fashions, you see. And when you blitz Jalen, of course, 9 times out of 10, he's going to be more gasp. And then you want to be able to showcase a Joe Thomas who was making plays in the preseason. So I'm thinking that if you look at everything from A to Z, I will have to say that we have to create more pressure up front. Creating more pressure gives your linebackers more time and more space. And if you look at the scouting report, Cowboy Nation, on LVE and Jalen, they need to have clean pass. They need to keep their jerseys clean. They don't want to be always engaged, you see. They play better just flying to the ball. Right.
And that helps Jalen in that regard too, as I talked about the potential of him cutting back to his right, looking a little wonky in Washington. If you got him rushing the passer, you got him going north and south, and we know he does that at an excellent level. So if you're limiting how much he's got to cut back and forth, maybe you can preserve him a little bit that way, where instead of end of the year looking at like this snap total, whether that, let's say, like throw out a hypothetical, like is 600 snaps of Jalen better at the end of the year where he's had all that wear and tear, or is 480, let's say, better? Well, obviously the 480 is going to have him fresher. Rushing the passer on a lot of those, not obviously all those, but a higher percentage of those. I think you can get a more effective pass rush that way, which kind of works too, because we've been talking about the interior of this defensive line being a little bit suspect. That's a way to kind of account for it, is like, well, we got this linebacker who does it pretty well, and he's very physical at the line, the point of attack. So let's get him moving down that way, and then we got some depth behind him. So it's kind of a way where the team seems to be looking at it and saying, hey, how do we keep these guys fresh? Like, we know we need to win, but we think we got a real team instead of burning through ourselves every week for 16, 17 weeks, whatever. Let's try and keep a bunch of these key guys a little bit fresher, maybe 10% fresher than they were at the end of last year.
Kind of like self-preservation, basically.
Yes.
You want to preserve your guys, basically. Gambino, that's on the Facebook panel, says, and this is like another conversation right here. He says, do you feel that Byron Jones should trail or follow Michael Thomas throughout the field? And I can tell you off the jump that Papa Rob Marinelli, he doesn't coach that way, and Chris Richard doesn't coach that way as well.
No, that's what I was thinking. He hasn't really done that a whole lot. I can't remember him really doing that at all. That's really not even a common thing around the NFL today for a star corner to follow. Like Jalen Ramsey will do it a little bit, I think. But other than that, you really don't have a lot of guys that are given that kind of trust to do it. So I wouldn't expect it. And I don't know that would be the best thing for Byron because, it's been 3 weeks. He's played in all 3 games, but he is coming back from a hip surgery.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I want to be like, have one of the most diverse route runners and follow him all game long for 100% of your snaps. Like, if Michael Thomas moves, you almost want to kind of think of it as like, okay, think of it like a chess match. Do I trust Cheeto in this case to be able to go against him just for a little bit so I can give Byron a little bit of a blow or a little bit of a rest from, whatever fatigue he might have just kind of transitioning back into full football shape and form.
Right. And speaking of full football shape and form, there's this guy who wears number 25. We was talking about Wolverine before, right? He got his healing factors and things like that. This guy named Xavier Woods with the same name almost. The X-Man, he'll be back this Sunday. How do you feel about that? Do you think they should slide him in or just throw him in the fire and say, okay, make some plays for us?
I mean, that's hard to say based on what we heard in practice. I know his first day back in practice. First of all, it is kind of amazing. You heard the high ankle sprain, and so the automatic assumption was, Luke 4 to 6 weeks. People just naturally started saying that nationally, and the Cowboys were kind of like, no. I don't know about that. Like, he might miss some. I mean, he'll definitely miss this first game at least, but we think he could be back earlier than people think. And yet here we are going into New Orleans, and it's like, okay, yeah, it looks like he's back. I know his first day back in practice, he worked a little more with the second team, and it sounds like he's been pretty good since then. I would keep him on a pitch count, perhaps,
right?
But I wouldn't be afraid to put him out there with the starters. Whether starting the game or not doesn't really matter because not many teams, especially in this case with Teddy Bridgewater instead of Drew Brees, they're not going to go for your jugular on the first series probably, at least not in like a let me try and bomb it over your head and all of that. So I think that you're going to have a chance to kind of get him in there. I would say keep him on a pitch count, bring in a healthy dose of Darian Thompson, who played very well in his absence, I thought, last week. If we do that, then I feel pretty good about where we're at. But he certainly doesn't need to go. I would say if he plays 50% of the snaps, I'm happy with that. And I think that's a way to preserve him without risking anything. But I don't know how 100%, how close to 100% he is. So if he is ready to go full, then all means you do you.
Yes, indeed. This is going to have to be a defensive type of tone game. Like I said, the offense may start off struggling a little bit, but I'm thinking that once we figure out the New Orleans Saints and figure out what they're trying to take away, and I think that we can exploit those mismatches there. They got a defense, a type of defense that they're going to play man. They got gamblers on their team. We already know about Eli Apple, you see. And trust me, Ezekiel Elliott loved to eat apples. And so that means that Ezekiel Elliott is going to be running at them. Marshawn Lattimore, he's a gambler as well. But his problem is that he don't like to tackle out in space. He's more so like the Deion Sanders, not as it relates to coverage, but as it relates to going down and putting the helmet or filling in or lowering your pad levels and delivering the boom. He don't do that well. So, but they do got a guy that can hit well. He's number 24. Bell is his name. Vernon Bell. He's a thumper.
For sure.
But that's just how their team looks. They gamble a lot. They will jump out on routes, and I think that we can take advantages of those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kellen Moore. I think this is we talked about how the Saints have had this game on their calendar for a while. Mm-hmm. This feels like a game that Kellen Moore can definitely take advantage of. I think it was Big Game James shared some defensive stats from New Orleans earlier this week, talking about where they rank in terms of total yards, pass yards, all that. They're not very high up defensively right now. Now, it's early, so just like I tell everyone to kind of taper their expectations a little bit on like Cowboys being top 5 and everything, I still would say, yeah, but look at who you've played and where they rank. Part of that's because of you, I understand, but it is a small sample size is the point. So New Orleans, where they're at right now, total yards is 28th in the league, 436. Passing yards, 301. That's 30th. Wow. Rushing yards, 26. Like they're like in the 20s, and in one case the 30s across the board. Like they are not a great defense right now from what we've seen. So this feels like a situation where if they're watching too much of that tape from last year's game, they're going to get burned because Kellen Moore is not going to do things the way that Linehan did. We're not going to be as uber conservative as we were in that game. You felt it last year. We went up 13-0, and then we were like, all right, put on the brakes.
Right.
Start milking the clock. We're like, Scott, it's like the middle of the second quarter.
And you got Drew Brees, you know. Yeah, Scott Linehan was sitting back like, you know what? We got this game all in a wrap. Let's just go ahead and put the bubble wraps on. It looks like they was ready to bench Ezekiel Elliott for crying out loud. That's just how it goes, man. Now, I believe that the philosophy is different now. Like you said, this guy, Kellen Moore, he will use
very aggressive.
Yeah, he will use their aggressions against them, you see. And I'm thinking that, we can take advantages of that. But we have to realize that Sean Payton already knows that his quarterback is not in the game. So what he's going to do is he's going to gamble too. Sean Payton is a gambler. It's crazy. Eli Apple, a gambler. Marshawn Lattimore is a gambler, and as well as Sean Payton. So it's going to be one of those by hook or by crook. They're going to try to figure out a way to get and swing that momentum over. Just how they actually won the Super Bowl back in the days. They didn't have the number one defense, but they had a lot of takeovers.
Yep. And then that's a big thing that's been missing on the Dallas side of things, and that was what I wrote about last Monday. Was people said I was prematurely sounding the alarm in week 1. I hear you. The run defense has shored up by a long shot, so I am acknowledging that. But so have they've allowed fewer explosive plays, but there is still some stuff where it's like, hey, we got 5 sacks through 3 weeks against 3 bad teams. The Dolphins in particular allowed 7 sacks the week before, and we only got 3 on them. So there are reasons to still be a little bit concerned with the defense. Obviously, Quinn had a big game against Miami. He was getting a lot of pressure. Just didn't quite get home a whole lot. He got there for a sack, I think a half sack at one point with Malik Collins. But pressure on the quarterback has to go up. And if you can get that moving in the right direction, I think that you'll be able to fix your other problem, which is turnovers. We still don't have an interception through 3 weeks. The only other Cowboys team the only other NFL team to start 3-0 with 0 interceptions through 3 weeks, and I think like 200 yards of penalty off yardage, which we've also had, is the 2008 Cowboys. Wow. Now that team was the Romo broken pinky finger and all that, so there is context there to take.
Let me knock on some wood. Everybody in the chat box knock on some wood.
Yeah. But my point in that was people in the comments don't kill me for saying, like, as I say, that was not a Cowboys playoff team. Don't be like, well, it was because of Romo. Like, I know. I'm acknowledging. I'm just saying it's a rare thing to have a team with 3-0, no interceptions through the first 3 weeks. And we've been penalized a lot too, which is another weird trend, winning in spite of those penalties. In our case, they've mostly been offensive, but like the Cobb 3-yard touchdown play was called off last week.
Right.
So
there's crazy. It's crazy stuff. But here's what I want to say too with the New Orleans Saints and Teddy Bridgewater, opposed to Josh Rosen, who we just recently played. And of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Some people would call him Fitzmagic last year as well. Here's the thing. He holds on to the ball, and he got tiny hands. And he would not get the ball out quicker than a Josh Rosen nor a Ryan Fitzpatrick, believe it or not. So what I'm looking at, if you go back and look at the tape, those pressures from Robert Quinn, if Robert Quinn can stay healthy, if Robert Quinn can continue to whoop up on his guy on that side of the field, and you still got D-Law working his magic, and then on top of that, if you add in the fact that this will be Tristan Hills, sacking game, so he should be a whole lot fresher in understanding what the NFL feels like. And then on top of that, if you add in the fact that Malik Collins got home several times last week too, he just didn't get the sack. This may be a situation where we flipped the situation over, because last year the New Orleans Saints got 7 sacks on Dak Prescott, I believe.
They did.
7 of them. That's a lot of sacks because Dak Prescott held on to the ball. It may be the inverse. Might be flipping this thing around. Teddy Bridgewater holds onto the ball, and I don't think that they got a running back. Of course, Latavius Murray is pretty cool, for them. He's that bigger back, and Kamara is I guess, Swiss Army knife, but he's the head leading running back for their team now. Yeah. But I don't think that they're going to just keep Kamara back in the backfield blocking all game and all these sorts of things. So I'm looking at it like this. It could be a game that this would be the come-out party for the Dallas Cowboys defense. You see multiple turnovers, multiple takeaways, and things like that, and multiple sacks. It may be happening this weekend on Sunday night, live like 95. It may happen. It may happen.
There you go. Man, if that happens, if we get 7 sacks, let alone multiple turnovers, I'll do a backflip. I'll break my neck in the process, but I'll try and do a backflip because I'd be that happy about it. For a team that has only gotten 3 turnovers through 3 weeks, all of them have been fumble recoveries. It would be huge just to get 1 or 2 interceptions. Would be immediately because that's the thing, right? I talked about this on my post-game show after the Dolphins game. For where we rank in terms of total yardage for the offense, it's, I think, second to Kansas City, I want to say.
Right.
That's because we don't flip the field ever.
Right.
We don't get turnovers, so we don't start possessions at the opposing 35. We started at our own 25. And so we got to go – now, to our credit, we still do it, but we got to go the full length of the field, or in some cases, we've seen us go 95-plus yards toward a touchdown to start the year, and that's fantastic. But imagine, as we talk about, like 5 touchdown drives in a row against the Giants, 5 straight scoring drives in a row against the Redskins, 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal. As we start talking about performances like that and how we can move the ball like it's nothing, imagine what we could do in terms of consecutive drives, scoring drives with a short field. Give us just 1 turnover in any of those. Give us the ball at the 35 and we'll march in, no problem. Like that's how I view it. Like, if you don't make us 1 time, or God forbid 2 times in a game, have to drive the entire length of the field, you'll see. Like, if you're impressed with 3 straight 30-point games, imagine it'd be 3 straight 40-point games if you could give us that kind of play once or twice a game with a short field to work with. And that's really where we would be at. So if we could accomplish that in this game, I think we're the only team in the NFL to not have a single drive through 3 weeks start in opposing territory.
And then on top of that, we get the fumbles. It happened. It's just that we don't fall on the ball.
It's at our 5 or it's at our 23.
Right, our 5 or 23. Yeah, and I look back at that. What game I was looking at? It was the I want to say the Patriots game versus the Dolphins. It was like a pick 6, another pick, and something like that. And it was just like, man, the defense were showing that they can take the ball away. Or it was this other game. I guess it was the Chicago Bears versus the Redskins. Where the how and the nature that they got at the quarterback and was causing him to, force fumbles and things like that. And I'm thinking that this defense, we could be on that level. We got superstars on this defense. I'm thinking that we can do that against a quarterback who's been a backup, So I'm thinking that we can get there and have one of those type of games, one of those greedy type of games of causing turnovers and fumbles and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that would completely turn the tide of this game because, we can score from what we've shown, what we've done differently with our offense. What I love is that we've got 9 different players with explosive plays this year, plays of 20 yards or more, 9 different guys through 3 weeks. Like, that is a diverse offense. Everyone can hit you in the mouth. I think our leader in that regard is Michael Gallup, maybe still with 3.
Wow.
Cooper's right behind him. And then it's pretty much just a bunch of guys with 1 or 2. So, I mean, very, very well balanced in that regard. If you can give us the benefit of a short field once, that'll flip the game. I mean, you saw they went to Seattle. They got 14 free points and won by 6.
Right. See, and those are the things that people got to look into everything of a game. And even I have to recap this game real quick, Cowboy Nation. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Packers. Although the Packers lost last night, they still, Aaron Rodgers, without a running game, still put up 420 yards or something like that.
Yep.
And
he is that rare breed.
He's that rare breed. But what I'm looking at is that when we play against the Eagles, they're still gonna have the same set of DBs from my observation, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it was not like they couldn't run, period. It's just that they refused to run. Of course, the Eagles defense, they give them the stout versions of everything. But if you look at the flip side of the Eagles, I think Carson Wentz only had 160 yards passing. So
yeah, it was something crazy low like that. And I can look up the exact, but I think that's basically what it was for the game. I mean, the Eagles they won the game, so that goes to show you don't have to have
300 yards
to win. But at the same time, it is funny that because they won, regardless of the fact that yes, he threw 16 of 27 for 160 yards. Now it was 3 touchdowns, no picks, but 160 yards. People would kill Dak for that. They would be forming the mob immediately, but because of the fact that they won, the perception this week is like, oh, okay, there we go. Carson Wentz is back. And it's like, they won. They went to Green Bay and won. Good for them. But he didn't blow you away. He just made the drive at the end. And we were told in Dak's case last year and before that wasn't enough.
Right, it wasn't enough. And then you look at the creativity of how, the Packers lost that game. It was very creative how they lost the game. They was within the 5 several times. I think it was 2 times that it was within the 5 and 5-yard line. And I would say to myself, man, if that was Jason Garrett within the 5 with the greatest quarterback of all time, supposedly, boy, they'd be crucifying him and Big D right now. And here's the thing. We offer so many things as it relates to the Dallas Cowboys. We got to look at our roster completely from A to Z. We are blessed on that offensive line because you got a quarterback that can run the rock as well as hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott and as well as with Tony Pollard. So we got multiple weapons. We got a seasoned veteran tight end as well, and we got wide receivers that can pluck the ball out of the sky. Just we're not leaning on just one receiver. I do know that last year we was looking for this guy Amari Cooper to step up and help us out because we were 3-5 before he arrived to the scene.
Yep.
But I'm looking at this year. I'm thinking that with Kellen Moore coaching this team, I don't think that we can fall or regress, even if you have to give Amari Cooper a rest and these sorts of things. It's just my observation.
Maybe. I know he's good to go. They had an MRI on his ankle.
Right.
It sounds like he's fine. Now, the important thing to note is it's not the same ankle as what he had looked at in camp. Okay. So you can look at that as good news or bad news, I guess. You can either say, hey, it's not the lingering injury, but then you're like, oh, crap, but that means something else is hurt. But he's good to go, so no worries there. He will play this week. As it relates to that, they're 10-2, 11-2 since they got Amari Cooper. I think if you include playoffs. So, they are transcendent in terms of an offense at that point. That's the system we thought that like, oh, well, it's just the quarterback or it's just the running back. Well, you got to have the third part. You got to have the receiver, and then it opens everything else up. But what's different about the Cowboys winning games late last year for the most part compared to now is now you've seen, the receiver core is stronger overall. You saw that next step from Michael Gallup prior to this injury. He's been playing great. He will be out this game. No surprise there. But it sounds like he might still be a couple more weeks away. So that would also mean Green Bay, which we'll get into in a moment. But you saw him ascend. You added Randall Cobb, which is a more versatile wide receiver out of the slot than Cole Beasley was. No disrespect to Cole Beasley.
True.
So you see how the receiving core as a whole got better, and that makes everything stronger. Now, to say if you gave a game off for Amari Cooper, would we be able to roll without missing a beat? As long as we had Michael Gallup back, I think I could be on board with that. But without either of your top 2 receivers, I'd be a little hard pressed. I'd be like, you got any more of those Dolphins on the schedule?
Throw me some more Dolphins out there. But what I'm saying is that what I want Amari Cooper, I don't want him to be limping when we go into the playoff, right?
Agreed.
I don't want him to be limping.
You got to do the groundwork first, but
right.
there's no reason other than complete failure that you should miss the playoffs with this roster.
Right. So I just don't want these little nagging injuries to be one of those pitfalls. And I just can't wait. When is our bye week? When is that?
Let me pull it up exactly. Yeah. Oh wait, I got it right here. Our bye week is week 8.
Week 8. So it's like,
yep. Man, so we got the Saints, Packers, Jets, Eagles, and then we go on a bye week.
Okay. So it's a good bye week because it's right there, spank in the middle. So I love it. A lot of people, I'm looking at the chat, they saying that poor Lattimore. Yeah. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be aggressive against Cooper, and they better roll coverage because once they roll coverage, all you got to do then is to continue to run the rock. And I'm seeing that I look at a lot of things on tape. The Saints, they love that man-to-man defense.
They do.
They love it. And when you have your back turned to the quarterback, we saw last week, if guys were able to see the Saints versus Seattle game, Russell, although it was like towards the latter part of the game, he was able to gash them with his legs.
Yep. Mobile quarterbacks can definitely open things up. And, we've seen, I want to say a little bit more freedom for Dak in that regard. I know he only had like 1 rush attempt this past game, 1 for 8 for the touchdown in the red zone. But I feel like, you saw Washington, obviously the 40-yard scamper, the 42-yard scamper where he stiff arms Josh Norman into oblivion. That's not a common, that's not like that was the drawn up thing. That was just Dak's read. But I think he's feeling more emboldened, and because he's connecting more on some of these deep shots, and even to his own point, he's gotten a little bit greedy in terms of looking for them sometimes. That's him then, because he sets that up, he understands now that it opens things up for his legs, because he can move at that point when guys dial in, when they're man and they're doing that, he can run, he can take off and run. And I think you'll see more out of him this week in that. The most rush attempts Dak has had in a game, I think, in his career, I think he had maybe 1 with 5. But 2 of them I know were just him improvising and just doing something. It wasn't it's not like it was called run plays. It's not like we were running a Panthers offense with Cam Newton out there.
Right.
And we're not going to, for the record, but I think you'll see more freedom for Dak to run a little bit in this game. And sometimes it might just be that's the best option there, instead of trying to fit a tight window throw or a difficult situation downfield. Because I do think the Saints have a lot of ability defensively. I just don't think we've seen a lot of it yet. Yes, and so, yeah, that could be an X factor for you in this game.
Yes, indeed. So, and shout out to Stellos Cowboys for making a donation to help grow the nation. Really appreciate you. He says, don't count Devin Smith out. Always, Amari Cooper will play well out there as well. So I'm looking at it like this. Devin Smith, yes, he can take the top off the defense. And it's a lot of Ohio State guys. It's going to be like an Ohio State pretty much versus Ohio State
Thomas.
game. Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott, Eli Apple, Von Bell, I believe he's from Ohio State. So Marshawn Lattimore, he's from Ohio State. So it's a lot of Ohio State game,
Yeah. That means Jalen should have a good game, because that's where he got hurt playing Ohio State.
True. So it's almost time.
Red in a good way, not in the scarlet uniform way.
Right. The horns out of his head should be like, yeah, I'm finna get out to these boys,
Yeah.
How do you feel about? Is it time for us to do the bold predictions or the bold?
Yeah, we can get into that for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure.
You want to go first, or you want me to dabble in it?
Okay, I'll take the first stab.
Go ahead.
Now, I was not accurate last week in my bold predictions. I will freely admit that. I was very good week 1. I don't think we got around to doing them in week 2.
Hold on. As long as you don't do a bold prediction like you did last year with the Earl Thomas game, you see.
But I got it right.
You did. You got it right.
Can't be mad at me for getting the prediction right. That was an oddly specific prediction that came true.
We don't want those bro predictions, but go ahead.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's see. So I'm going to start things off with the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to say the Cowboys defensive line with Robert Quinn back in the fold with Tristan Hill getting a little bit more grounded and adapted to the NFL game at this point. I think that they're going to understand that with Bridgewater back there and not Breeze, as you said, they'll have a little more time and they'll have more of an opportunity. And I think you're going to see the defensive line step up and get at least 4 sacks in this game, which would be a season high. So that's a bold without being crazy bold prediction. But I think the defensive line gets after him. I'll give you an additional tidbit. 4 sacks with at least 1 strip fumble that they recover.
Now, is it spread across the board sacks, or is it going to be heavy on one side?
I think it's pretty much across the board. I think Jalen will get home once.
Okay. Let me do this. Shout out to Stellos again for making the donation to help grow the nation. He says Cowboys 34, New Orleans Saints 23. I'm greedy. I don't want them to score 23, but I'll take that win any day. Shout out to you. Here's the thing. My bold prediction. I did a critical analysis of Cheeto Awuzie, right? Of not getting his head around to the ball, not being a physical at the LOS and these sorts of things. And that's my guy. A lot of people think I'm not a Cheeto fan, but he actually subscribed to the channel. He's part of the notification squad and these sorts of things. Here's the thing. Cheeto, bold prediction. 2 interceptions. Woo! Woo-wee! Bat the ball down. The ball is hitting all over the airs in the air. And number 24 plucks it out of the sky. And that's my favorite number because I wore number 24 when I was growing up. And that's the best number to have.
Everson Walls.
Yeah, the Everson Walls. And shout out to Kobe Bean Bryant for wearing 24 as well. So everybody that wore 24 was just balling. And also Larry Brown. And who else wore 24? Marion the Barbarian. You guys put down who wore the 24 the best for the Cowboys, you see.
There you go.
And I would say 2 interceptions for Cheeto Awuzie.
Okay.
And that's bold. And
that is
1 interception for LVE. The building exploded, and all of a sudden, we down there in New Orleans land, in the Mercedes-Benz Dome or what have you, and all of a sudden you hear, oh! That's going to be crazy, huh?
You're trying to get us up to a 1 interception per game average in week 4.
Right. It's just going to all of a sudden happen. And if you want to talk about sacks, because I'm just got to stay on the defense, because everybody knows me personally. They know that I love defense. I don't like it. I love it. And my brother from another mother, no other. Don't look like Danny Glover, but keep it cool with us. He wears number 90. This game, he get his 3 sacks.
Okay.
This game. And the strip sack fumble is going to also come from Robert Quinn, the sack man. Yes.
Okay. There you go.
That's Super Bowl right there. Let's go. Y'all put y'all bold predictions down.
My predictions feel so humble now.
Offensive side, if you want to.
Yeah, let's go offensive side here. So we, in this segment, for those who haven't seen it before, we usually give, it's not always a set rule, but we usually give about 3 predictions a piece in that regard. And our track record's been pretty good so far.
True.
Let's see. Quick shout out to Big Game James in the Lava Cantina segment I did with him Saturday before the game. He called the Cowboys getting both running backs over 100 yards. So salute to him for that. He was dead on the money.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say in terms of the running backs, I think Zeke is held under 100 rushing, but you see a little bit more from Zeke in the receiving game, and his total yards are still over 125 for the game with a touchdown.
Wow. So repeat this por favor for me.
Sure. So rushing the ball under 100 yards, but he steps up by kind of taking a page out of the Kamara book, and with total yards, with receiving yards, goes over 125 yards, yards with a touchdown.
With a touchdown. Okay, and he keeps that deal going. Okay,
Yep.
Okay, let me raise you.
Okay.
A guy that wears number 20, a dub. And shout out to Stellos for making the dub that's in the chat box. Man, really appreciate you, Stellos. Man, you sponsoring this podcast today, Dan. Here's the thing. This guy, Tony P. Just don't even put Pollard on it. Just going to say Tony P. He's going to have him another 100-yard game.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I'm talking about running the rock there's going to be a play. This will be the game that he breaks one for 78 yards. I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. This will be the game that he busts one in the middle, and everybody's going to be looking like, who's number 20? The Flash. Running up the guts. He scores the touchdown, and he looks back, and there's no flags. There's no flags. Yes, indeed. Tony P, 78-yarder, touchdown.
That'd be pretty awesome to see for sure. Let's see. For my final prediction, I'm gonna stay with the offense in this regard. I think so. Amari Cooper's had at least one touchdown in every game this year. His high is 2 touchdowns, which he just got against Miami.
Wow.
I think Amari Cooper remains the weapon. Now, the Saints held him in check pretty well last year, obviously. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what our one touchdown was last year against the Saints, but they held him pretty well in check for that game. Now, he still made them play us more honestly than obviously not having him out there. True. But I think Amari Cooper goes off. Despite the ankle, you see another strong day out of him. I'm going to say over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for Amari Cooper.
Let me count the points. 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. So you're going to have around, 34?
You're trying to jump into the next segment.
I'm trying to count your touchdown. Somebody put a good one up here for Dak Prescott. It was a bold prediction that I'm just going to piggyback off of them. Can you put it back down there again? I can't see it. I think somebody put down 355 yards passing.
Okay. Screenplay to Zeke was that touchdown last year. Goat just commented. Shout
out to you, Goat. Is this his name, Goat?
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. Screenplay. So shout out to Zeke. All right, so I'm going with their bold prediction, 355. I don't know what the arrest was. Okay. So if you put 355 yards down, please repost that so I can read it. And that will be my bold prediction for Rain Dakota Prescott, because I want Dakota Prescott to continue to push the needle down of him being he's second place in touchdown passes this year.
Yeah, he's got 9 and 10 is with Mahomes.
That's been in good company, right?
Yeah.
And also his QBR I think is up there as well. So I'm
like 128.
What else he got? Like, what is his? That's some good numbers, man. And he got one rushing touchdown as well, right?
I know he's only missed 1 pass off play action, I think, this year. I think he's something like, or no, 2. I think it's like 28 of 30 passing the ball on play action. That's where he's been most lethal for sure.
Okay, here you go. It was from Devon, 24 for 34. That's a lot of missed passes for Dak Prescott, huh? But
24 of 30. Oh, that's his prediction for the game?
24 for 34, 355 yards with 2 touchdowns. But I would sleep happy with that. With a W-2 on top of that, no INTs. Yeah. Man, I would sleep happy with that.
That's the thing. Coming into this last game, Dak had only 11 incompletions on the year, or 13 incompletions on the year. He had 11 at half. He ended up with 13 for the game, but he leveled the ship out in the second half. And I think that we've seen that with this offense. We should really remember that. As great as we'd like to think that this team is going to go in and on that first drive, going a long, 10-play drive, 80 yards, whatever, 75 yards, and a touchdown, they've started slow in every week this year. It's been, in the Giants' case, it wasn't too slow. It was the first drive didn't go anywhere, really, and then the second drive – actually, that's not true. First drive went, in the Giants' case, about 6 plays, then it fizzled. The next drive started the 5 consecutive. Against the Redskins, it took until halfway through the second quarter. And really, in this game, it didn't. This past week, it didn't pick up until the second half. Like, they jumped out to a 10 quick points, and then they went dormant until those 2 drives to open the third quarter for them. So they've started a little slow for the most part this year. I think that is something to take into consideration. I do think once they get going, once Dak really settles in, you see things open up for them, but it's just getting to that point. So I did I already give a third prediction?
No, just lay it out there. Finger roll.
I was trying to think. I was like, oh, is this a bonus prediction or is this my third prediction? I'm not even sure. Regarding Dak, I'm gonna say Dak has another efficient day. But the main thing to keep in mind is going to be the dual threat for Dak, I think, this week. I feel pretty strongly that this is going to be a week more about his mobility that really puts him over the top. So he didn't throw for 300 yards this past game.
Right.
I think Dak is going to have another day where he throws for something like 240 yards, but he gives you another 50 yards on the ground with a touchdown, perhaps, in that regard. I just to put this out there, my prediction for this game is the Cowboys at 31 points again. I think they're going to continue that streak, 31-23.
Oh man, that's a good game. Basically, I love it because this is what I'm looking at. 28-13. Everybody knows I'm going to go 28-13. But here's how this game is going to start off. New Orleans Saints are going to score the first touchdown. They're going to go up 7-0 on us, and we're going to have another slow start. And it's all about chess and not checkers. I'm looking at this team. They play better when they got their backs against the wall. And I love the fact that we kind of figure out things as the process go, right? If you look at all of the games, we kind of like, okay, this puzzle need to go here, or this piece of the puzzle need to go there. And I love those factors of this game. And I'm liking the fact that we can just have that resiliency too. And you can look at the battle within the battle of the game, whereas everybody's sitting at the edge of their seats, and then they looking at it like when this team is going to perform. And then third quarter hits you up. And what it shows me, Cowboy Nation, is this team, you can see the depth purposes on display. When you start off slow, and it's like eventually our number twos are better than your twos, and our twos are, our threes are, even our threes out there, the rotational as it relates to that defensive front are better than some of your twos, and you see that penetration happen, you see that pressure happens, and you see multiple sacks happen in the third quarter, multiple sacks happen in the fourth quarter. And I'm thinking that this is what this team is designed and built for. We're not going to jump out on you real quick, but we slowly move things around in our favor. And I like it better that way because Jason Garrett with a league, we already know that sometimes he can become
milk
too
toast.
Conservative. Yeah. Too conservative. So
For sure. And third quarters have been where we've seized absolute control of every game. I mean, I know in week one against the Giants, 3 of our touchdown drives came in the first half of those 5. So that one's kind of the exception. But against the Redskins, again, we started super late. It was like 5 minutes left in the second quarter. We ended up getting 2 touchdown drives. It was like from the end of the first touchdown drive, got the ball back and scored again right before the half. And then you started with the ball in that third quarter and took it down and scored again. So like that's how you seize control of games. That's why I like to defer even if you win the toss.
Right.
Start all in the second half, especially with how we're built right now. Because, I mean, with how things have been moving through the first 3 weeks, Dak Prescott has like 1 incompletion in the third quarter this entire season. Entire season.
I think
the first
like
3 weeks.
22 for 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a crazy number like that. Yeah.
No, yeah, and of course no interceptions, like 4 touchdowns or something like that. Dak has been lights out in the third quarter. The whole offense, but of course that's going to base a lot on the quarterback. So if you got Dak playing lights out, if you can go into the half with any kind of lead at all, like let's say it's 10-7 at half, that would put us somewhere in the ballpark of kind of last year. Last year I think it was 13-0 or 13-3, I forget. But if we're in that kind of position, and then you're starting the second half with the ball, even on the road, you're probably looking at that and thinking like, all right, yeah, we've been killing teams in the third quarter. This is the one quarter we do right, and this is where you establish control for the rest of the game. Because if you can put 2 drives, just 2 drives in the third quarter together for touchdowns, dude, that goes a long way. You're talking 14 points. You're talking about half of most teams' output. Like a good team. Good teams will give you like somewhere in the 28 on the low end to 31 usually in terms of the offense. If you can get 2 of those touchdowns, you're giving half of that production in just 1 quarter. That is going to put you in good position, especially when you got the rest of the game to still control your will as well.
Yes, indeed, man. That's a good observation there. Very good observation. And
especially on the road, that is huge.
Especially. And I want to say this, too. Remember last year and I think previous year, we used to say fourth quarter Dak.
Yeah.
Maybe it's third quarter Dak now, and he can keep that momentum going all the way throughout. Man, that's fantastic information for the nation. Cowboy Nation.
to extend the 30-point streak and the double-digit wins for sure.
Yes, indeed, and that's just us. We are optimistic about this team. It's feeling like it's going to be a great year for us, and just taking advantages of our depths out there is wonderful as well. Cowboy Nation, I really appreciate you all for tuning in to this thing. Every Friday, me and DDP, we're going to try to be out here giving you guys the latest information on the Cowboys and things like this and beyond. But we also have other channels where you can find us on, and I want to be able to give DDP an opportunity to let you all know where to find them at, where they can find you at.
For sure. You can find my content at the Dallas Prospect on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page. I tend to dabble most in Mavericks and Cowboys talk. Obviously, Cowboys are the main thing right now. But we also do a little bit of college football talk here and there as well. And we're going to get a little bit, I think, into the Dallas Stars as well this season. They're about to start as well. So pretty much Dallas sports are the primary focus, and we make it happen over here. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But above all, I don't know if it's under me on the graphic or not, but check out theDallasProspect.com where you can find my written content. You can find other written content from Big Game James. We'll do some articles as well. And you can also find my content on Clutch Points or on DallasSportsFanatic.com. Yes, indeed. That's some good information. Find his website, Cowboy Nation. It's right there on the TV, DDallasProspect.com. Whereas every legend was once a prospect. Look it up. Sir. Yes, indeed. And then on top of that, have to tell you guys, I'd be remiss to say this right here with the Cowboys Experience. Man, I'm telling you all right now, if you want to get a chance to be with the players, the meet and greet sessions, it's wonderful. I think that we're going to try to have Joe Looney out there and Jordan Lewis. We're going to try to have him at the next event. So I really, and think we trying to get Tyron Smith. So we're going to have those three players out there. I know you guys want to pick their brains, right? And this is a wonderful opportunity to reach out to Cowboys Experience. Just go to the website, hit up the Facebook page, Cowboys Experience, or Cowboys hashtag Cowboys XP, and you will find all of that wonderful information throughout the world, right? Just type that in, Cowboys XP, the hashtag, and you will just find the website from there. And I must say this, Cowboy Nation, one day at a time, one movement at a time, brick by brick, we will grow. Just keep in mind that this game that we call football is a short time. So if you have the opportunity to meet with these players, go out there and try, especially if you don't like the Cowboys and you love them like I do. Let's hit them up. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Salute. We're out. Peace. Yeah. Let's go. Stellos, man. Thank you for another donation, man.